Hold on, you guys. I think my camera might be off. There we go. Just a second. My camera might not be. There we go. I think we should be good now. There it is. Sorry about that. Happy Tuesday morning, everyone. It is very frigid today. I hope everyone's staying warm. I don't know where you guys are all based out of, but here in the United States, we're looking at a very cold day. It is in the single digits Fahrenheit, and I'm assuming it's probably like that probably everywhere else in at least the northern parts of the world, Europe and here in North America. So hopefully everyone's staying warm. Sorry about that little mishap. There's always something. I forgot to have my camera plugged into the PC. I disconnected it for a little bit last night. We'll probably have this stream be slightly shorter than normal. I'll probably go for an hour because I really want to get a video out about the Japanese 10-year bond. It absolutely is moving right now, and I have a feeling that the reverse carry trade could happen a lot sooner than a lot of us are thinking. If you're joining for the first time or watching this in the playback, how these live stream goes is that we start out with an overall market wellness check, and then we transition to talk about global news going on in the world. We'll start out with coinmarketcap.com, although today specifically I do want to cover the stock market because I made a prediction yesterday that did come true. I predicted the markets would open down, and they did. We'll also look at gold and silver, and of course, the big ticket item for today is the Japanese 10-year bond. It's up it's up over 10 basis points, and if you don't know what a basis point is, that is 1/100th of a percent. So it's up 0.1% since yesterday. Very crazy stuff. In the bond market, you don't want things growing that fast. So for us to see that, very concerning for the stock market. Actually a good thing for XRP, and we're going to get into it and break it all down. I want to say good morning, everyone, real quick. Good morning, Baller. Good morning, Jim, Shelby, CS Gaming. Looks like it's 41 degrees in California. That's a lot better than some people have told me not to say where I live, but cat's out of the bag. I'm in Detroit. Detroit is cold. It is 3 degrees. It is so cold that last night when I was at my hockey game, my tailgate was creaking when I pulled my hockey bag out. It was like, and that was a miserable drive there, miserable drive home. Very, very cold, but that's January. Happens every year. You know, you just stay warm and spring will be around the corner. Let's see, Steph. Hi, Andrew. It's the best time of the day again. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. You need the UFC compere standing with this microphone behind you shouting, "We are live." I appreciate that. I love you guys. You know, you guys make this whole thing possible. So I hope you guys realize I do really appreciate you. We're going to jump into the charts now and talk about what's going on. There's a lot of crazy things. Davos started. If you're not familiar with Davos, it's the Global Economic Summit where all of our political overlords gather to decide how they're going to allocate their lemmings to different things. And unfortunately, the lemmings are you and I. The Davos Summit has been something I've long been unhappy with, but here in the crypto space, it is a detail that we've got to keep an eye on because Ripple is at Davos. So, for better or worse, you know, I've said before, when it comes to XRP, sometimes you might feel like you might be in bed with the enemy. I've talked to some people on this channel, and a lot of us have come to the same conclusion that, you know, if you have no XRP, then you have no power. You've got no skin in the game, and you're not able to do battle with some of the malevolent forces in this world that are trying to steer us into a new generation of oppression. Don't want to necessarily go too deep into that rabbit hole today, but I know a lot of people are worried about it, myself included. My best thing to say, especially as we unpack what they're going to be doing at Davos, is just keep in mind that if you do hold XRP and things do play out and these global elites do in fact choose XRP as their champion token, not only do you position yourself to benefit from that, but if this thing goes to the level a lot of us think that it will, you'll actually have enough capital to start making serious changes in your own community. And so I think that, not necessarily thrilled about the fact that Ripple is at Davos and, Brad Garlinghouse being on the board of Davos. If you're familiar with that whole landscape, you would know why. But we got to make the most of our situation. And I think that in a strange way, it's just another bull signal for XRP that would lead myself and a lot of people on this channel into believing that we're on the cusp of something great here. So Davos, not necessarily the best group of people, but we got to make the most of that situation. Let's see what we got on the chat. I'll be scooping up more Flare. It is, you know what? I have been looking at it all morning. I'm going to, hold on, I got some pop-ups here that won't go away. I guess, well, that's weird. Oh, you want me to accept the cookies? All right. Flare is teetering at the brink of hitting that 99. Now, I don't know if this is just a pettiness on my part. I've got some cash sitting, and as soon as it breaks into the 99, I'm going to do a lump sum. So not just, I won't share the specific details, but I'm going to be getting at least enough Flare to get me pretty close to my forever bag. Now, whether or not I continue to buy or just hang out with what I got and just get at staking and delegating, be a decision down the road. But I mean, Flare right now is very close to its historic bottom. Now, this would make a lot of people probably upset or frightened. That's not my style. I like to buy when things are low. Think about it like this. You go to Walmart to buy a Xbox 360, or I don't know, maybe we'll go with the modern generation. You go to the Walmart to buy an Xbox One or a PlayStation 5. Would you rather buy that PlayStation on sale, or do you want to pay full price? Because that's kind of what we're looking at right here. A penny at Flare, down almost 80% from its all-time high after the ICO, where it was at 5 cents. Well, if you're a believer like I am that Flare is 100% going to recover, right now in 2026, you could 5x your input value than what you could do in February of 2024. Which means, in a very layman's terms way, people getting into Flare right now are getting a better deal than people were getting 2 years ago. And I don't say things like that lightly. There's some benefit to being new to crypto in 2025 and 2026. And I think that Flare is well positioned to still be a top 5 coin. Very excited about what Flare Network is doing. And if this thing hits 0.99 today, I will probably true myself up to my forever bag and ride that off into the sunset. I don't necessarily want to get too specific with it, because if Flare goes to $1, $2, $3, that could be the kind of thing that puts a target on my back. Although maybe it's a little too late for that, since I am YouTubing with my real name. But I still want to have at least some modicum of privacy. I want to take a quick look at Quant, because Quant is very interesting Almost the entire market's been slaughtered, right? Like, it has been a bad week for basically every coin, but then it's been a good week for quant. Just this time last week, quant was trading around $75. I guess it is back down, but it shot up just shy of $90 on the 17th. Again, on the 19th, it got even closer to $90. We've had a pretty tumultuous past couple days. Not surprised that it went down a little bit, but it's still above where it was last week. That's not true for almost any other coin. Some coins we don't necessarily look at too often here, but Algorand, look at this 1 week chart, definitely down, hit this very steep fall off. Just about every coin had this fall off right here, which I think is interesting. I don't think quant hit that at all. Oh, maybe it did. Okay, so quant also had that, that sharp fall off. I think it was around 5 p.m. on Sunday. That looks to check out. At least 5 p.m. Eastern time here in North America. I know that'd be different times for those in different time zones. Very excited about quant. The more I learn about it, the more I do start to see how quant is well positioned to, I don't want to say take over the crypto space, because that's not the right way to put it, but it's going to solidify its place in crypto in a way that no other token is able to do, and that comes from its interoperability. Oh yeah, by the way, it looks like we've got 30 people here. If I could get you guys to like the stream real quick, we're at 9 likes. Just bump that up to 15. I'll be happy with that. So with quant, if you're not familiar with how quant works, I'm always trying to come up with the most simple layman's explanation for interoperability. So what interoperability means is that, like, you've got the XRPL and you've got the Bitcoin ledger. They don't necessarily communicate with each other, so they're siloed off. What quant does is it has an operating system called the overledger. And the overledger is kind of like an umbrella that you can connect all of these different ledgers to, and that will make it possible for any bank or any major institution using quant can very easily transact data from one ledger to another. Currently, that's not possible. So, let's say you're JP Morgan and you've got clients all over the world. Your clients in Japan want XRP. Your clients down the street want XDC. Some of your clients are Bitcoin maxis. They won't take anything but Bitcoin. You got all these different ledgers, but you're one bank trying to operate in all these different spaces. If you had quant, instead of having to keep all this data in separate databases that don't communicate with each other, you just log into quant with your user credentials and voila, you've got access to all of it, and it'd be very neatly categorized. So it's really an end user operating system that keeps all of crypto together. And the quant token, I don't necessarily think is going to necessarily be used for financial services, more that it's going to get you access to the overledger. So if you think about in the grand scheme of things, there's credit unions, there's small banks, there's even small businesses that might want access to this. Well, there's only 15 million total tokens. And so the quant token acts as an access key. The best way I can explain this one is that if you've ever played PC games, especially from the early 2000s era, you'll know that every game, like when you get the disc from Best Buy, not necessarily like it is now where you buy stuff digitally, but if you bought the physical game, every game came with a CD key, and you could not install the game without the CD key. That's what a quant token is. A quant token is simply an access key to the overledger network. And so that is why I'm looking at quant and thinking, this is a very interesting token because it doesn't necessarily have to follow the same rules as the rest of the market. Because it's not really necessarily being used as a currency. I don't even know if I'd call it a cryptocurrency. I know that's That's the word we all use, cryptocurrency. I really think quant is more of a service token that just happens to have, a dollar value to it. I think quant's going to perform very well. I mean, even if we look at this live chart, this thing is it's moving in real time, right? I've seen it move from, I think it was 78 when I clicked on it. Now it's already at 79.30 cents. In general, just very happy with this coin. I'm glad you guys put me on it because before this channel, I actually wasn't looking at quant. So it's very interesting that, you guys actually helped me out a lot with my research and introduced me to stuff that I otherwise wasn't looking at. Now, which makes me want to talk about Canton for a minute. Now, I know I've heard some people pronounce it Canton. Here in Detroit, we have a city. Everyone calls it Canton, so I call it Canton. I don't know if it's Canton or what, but anyways, I guess that doesn't really matter. Canton has me a little bit worried because this is the Wall Street coin. JP Morgan's gone with it. I have a feeling that us XRP holders might not like what I'm about to say, and I don't like that I'm saying it either. There is a genuine threat to XRP that Canton could be chosen as the back-end settlement token for the stock market, which means if that happens, then XRP will lose that market share. Now, it doesn't mean XRP is dead. I don't want people thinking that. It just means that it'll get a smaller slice of the adoption pie than what we would have originally wanted. Hey, what's going on? Good morning, Ben. So I'm keeping an eye on this. On a personal level, I don't really trust Wall Street or the major banks. So I'd rather, here's my perspective on it. I'd rather Wall Street and JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, all these major banks, I'd rather them be like forced to adopt XRP with their nose held plugged than for them to go and make their own token, or I don't know if they're making Canton or if they're just choosing it over XRP, but I'm a big fan of the privacy and security side of crypto. I don't know that, I'm sure this is going to do very well from an investment point of view. It's probably going to make a lot of money. But it does worry me. I don't know that this is giving money to the good guys or to the bad guys. And if maybe somebody could, I'd love to have that discussion. I mean, this is a relatively new coin. It kind of came out of nowhere early here in November. I guess Canton's been around a while, but the chart values only go back to November. So maybe this is a little conspiratorial. This coin just in general kind of makes me nervous as an XRP holder. But I guess the counter argument to that is that competition is always a good thing. So if that makes XRP, or if that makes Ripple work harder, I know that Ripple did not create XRP, but they are its custodian. Maybe that competition is a good thing. But if XRP misses out on the back-end settlement of the stock market, that is going to affect some of its long-term price. Not enough to change the game. I think, guys, I can't say it enough. I think we're good to go. If you hold XRP, even if it doesn't happen on the timeline we all want it to, I think that we're good to go. I'm seeing from Ben, is Canton going to Davos? I don't exactly know if they are or aren't, but I would not be surprised if they are. I'm not sure how to feel about Ripple being at Davos. I mean, it's not exactly a surprise to me that they would be there, but the more you look into, and I think a lot of you guys in the crypto space are probably already hip to this a little bit, but the more you look into the major banks, the more you start to find out that there's a lot of layers to this onion that get uglier. Each layer you peel back is more ugly than the last, and it all comes down to banking. It's more than just money. It's about control. It's about pitting countries against each other. Libya, for example, or what's going on right now in Venezuela and Iran. The banks, especially the Davos banks, use currency and weaponize it to topple other nations, which unfortunately the United States has been the barking pit bull for that. And so there's a level of this to me that that doesn't sit well. But like I said at the beginning of the stream, if XRP is the chosen token, if we don't have it, then we have no power. So I do think that in order to, if we're talking about a good versus evil type thing, you've got to have XRP to even be able to do battle against the evil. So that's kind of my perspective. I'm not thrilled about Ripple being at Davos, but it is what it is, and we just have to make the most of that. Gonna catch up real quick on the chat. By the way, might crack my window. It's like 3 degrees out, but it still gets nice and toasty in this room. Hopefully there's not too much outside noise. I've been really researching on the back end how to improve the audio and video quality on this channel, and I've been learning a lot about microphone settings. So I think that each week I think it's getting a little bit better. Maybe in a couple months here, my videos will finally sound like some of the more professional channels. Catching up here, Tommy says David Schwartz and Ditto created XRP and Bitcoin. That's correct. I've even heard rumors that David Schwartz could be Satoshi. I know that that was popular with, or not popular, but that was a tweet made by John McAfee, creator of the McAfee antivirus. That guy was a little bit of a wild card. That's so off topic. I probably won't dig too far into that one here, but catching up on more chats. Steph says Quant and Chainlink seem to both have a similar role of interoperability. Geez, trying to say interoperability is your version of the anonymity. Yeah, I think I made a joke. I don't know if it actually made the video or not, but I was saying that interoperability is like the word with the most vowels that any of us have ever said out loud. It's definitely a mouthful. I mean, both of those words, interoperability and anonymity, very hard to say out loud. I am getting better at it. I think I just said anonymity for the first time without stuttering, so making progress on that. Got some more comments. Tommy says Canton is not only Chainlink, HBAR, and Ripple. Okay, so Chainlink, HBAR, and Ripple are all at Davos, is what I'm hearing. Tommy says HBAR is going to be huge soon. So, Tommy, you'll especially like this. You probably already know. I've officially booked my trip to Denver for the HBAR DevCon. So, I'm not a developer, so I'm hoping that there's going to be at least something I can gain out of it. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be financial news related. But I think going to this convention and seeing the HBAR token or the HBAR network being used and like actually learning how the network works, I think will go a long way at helping me understand like what does HBAR really do beyond just the partnerships it has. I'm excited for that, and the goal for that is to try to stream at least in the hotel room. I don't know how much I'll be able to do inside the actual conference. But should have a lot of HBAR content after February 17th. So mark your calendars. I think that's going to be really good. Daniel says, I've never had issues with your audio or video quality. I appreciate that. Maybe I'm just a perfectionist. I watch channels like Asmongold and other guys that are really big in this space, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll start one of my videos and then immediately switch over to one of theirs without changing my headphone volume or anything like that, and I try to see like, can I get my videos to match the audio quality that they have? And I'm getting closer. There's still just something I can't put my finger on it, but it's just slightly off. But to me, it's really important because I don't know about you guys, but if I go on a long road trip, like a 3 or 4 hour road trip, I can only listen to music for maybe a half hour to an hour before I kind of get bored of it. So I head to YouTube. I'll pick out an hour to an hour and a half long video, just put that on, and I don't even look at the screen. So I'm, in a strange way, it's almost like I'm listening to YouTube. And I have to imagine that's probably true for a lot of you guys as well. So for me, having good audio is almost more important than having, good references on the screen, which is why, like in yesterday's video, for example, I have bad handwriting. I have an iPad, but it was just like, well, half the people are probably listening to the video anyways. So that's been my perspective on it. I did get an iPad pencil, but it didn't arrive in the mail in time for the video, so I just shot it anyways. The handwriting should get better if I use the iPad again. I get these tools because I don't want to be a channel that uses too much AI. The only AI I use is for the video descriptions, and I have a feeling that nobody actually reads those anyways. It's kind of like a necessary evil. If you don't have AI in your video descriptions, the channels that do are going to beat you out in terms of search engine optimization, or SEO for short. And so it's almost like using enhanced drugs in the MLB. It's like, if I don't use it, I'm not going to win. Or it's like Lance Armstrong, like everybody's on PEDs in the Tour de France, and if you're not going to win. That's kind of the way I look at AI. But I don't necessarily like using it. But that's all I got to say about that. Overall, markets. So everything was kind of wiped out. Now, some people have been saying that it is a crypto problem. I'm saying it's an everything problem. So I predicted yesterday on the stream, for those of you international, Monday was a holiday. It was Martin Luther King Day, so the markets were closed. You'll see that I'm looking right here. If you can see where my mouse is at, it jumps straight from Friday, January 16th to Tuesday, January 20th. So Monday was completely a non-factor here in the market. So we opened up on the S&P 500 down almost 2% since it opened. That's a pretty big slide for stocks. When stocks fall 2%, you can bet that people are going to be worried about that. So I don't take this personal when it comes to crypto. I know that some people, if you go to Twitter, if you go to Instagram's Threads, or any other social media platform, people are really complaining their eyes out right now. And it's almost like they don't do any global research. It's just charts are down, crypto's dead, charts are down, your XRP's trash, your HBAR's trash, your Flare is trash. The whole world is on a slide. I think it has to do with Greenland. I did some more thinking about the Greenland situation. I did look at some maps, and if you look at a map of the Earth, I hate that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to type in a flat Earth map just because on the flat Earth maps, they're circular based as opposed to like a regular globe map, which is like a square. If we look at, here's a good one. So Greenland is somewhere, let me see. Oh, you guys can't see because my face is blocking it. Here we go. So where I'm mousing right here is Russia. Greenland is over here somewhere. For some reason, it doesn't look like it's, oh, maybe that's Greenland. This map, kind of hard to look at, but I guess the point I'm trying to get to is people are saying, why Greenland? What's Russia's all the way over on this square map? It's really not. Actually, Moscow to New York could be a straight line going through Greenland. So I'm starting to wonder, does Trump want Greenland so that he can set up anti-missile batteries in Greenland and have it basically be an impenetrable wall that missiles could not be shot from over here? Can you guys see my mouse all right? Is this am I not zoomed in enough? Let me know if you guys can see. But I was thinking about this yesterday, and if this is the angle, now it makes a little bit more sense to me. I know the sensationalism on, social media platforms is, you go on there and it's just people complaining. But, thinking about this from a global war perspective, and I hate to say it, but that could be on the menu. Maybe there's a good case for having Greenland. Some people say like, oh, well, why is Alaska not enough? Well, again, look at the map. Alaska does touch Russia, but this part of Russia is almost entirely uninhabited. I mean, I'm not saying it's got a zero population, but most of Russia is consolidated in the Moscow region. So Russia's not going to go the long way around. If they were going to attack, they'd probably go through Greenland. So that when I look at it this way, it makes a lot more sense to me. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to say that I get it. Like, I can kind of see where the strategic importance is in having, military operations there. But of course, why am I talking about this? Well, the Greenland kerfuffle has started to cause some tariffs to go out. Let me see if I can pull those up. So Greenland tariffs, some of these are just going to be headlines, but Trump's year of tariff threat over Greenland revives talks of sell America. Donald Trump's Greenland tariffs, no great blow to Europe. So this is basically causing us to have some, economic unrest. It's not going to last. This stuff never lasts. The dip will recover. Something will come out of this, and it's just going to be another bump in the road. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't be too worried. Now, the thing I really want to talk about, and this will probably be why I end the stream a little short today, is because I really want to get a video out as fast as I can about this topic right here. I'm going to try and switch this to dark mode. There we go. The Japanese government bond it's going out of control, you guys. This is moving faster than I even thought it would. So I'm going to tighten this up to 1 day. Oh no, let's go to 5 days out. So I think the last time we talked about this would have been, what is today, the 20th? So somewhere around this time frame, it was when we last streamed. On the 19th, it would have been at around 2.26, maybe 2.25. I'd have to go through the last stream and look. It's at 2.34 right now. And some of us on the stream were talking last night while it was happening. It peaked out at 2.38 last night around maybe 10 p.m. Eastern time. This is moving faster than I could have imagined. When I first started tracking this, would have been probably around November of last year. The JP10Y was at around 1.7 the first time I really started looking into this. I mean, if you look at this chart, and let me drag myself down a little bit more, you don't want bonds moving like this. This is out of control. We might see some hyperinflation out of Japan, and the longer it takes them to execute the reverse carry trade, I think the more disastrous it's going to be for the stock market. And in a strange way for us, the longer it takes for this to execute the reverse carry trade, the more XRP is going to go up, because it's just going to make the situation more dire. Will just says flare dropped. I'm going to pop over to that real quick because I do I don't know. I don't know if everyone's joining at the same time, but I'm planning on buying Flare. There we go. That was what I was looking for. This is what I was looking for. So I will be buying Flare today. Don't want to say how much, but it's going to be enough to satisfy my Flare bag for possibly ever. So I got to be careful about how much I reveal here, because this, you never know who's watching. But yeah. If there was any question if I'm bullish on Flare, the answer is yes. I will be buying a 0.99 Flare any day that I can, and if it does go lower, then maybe I will, like, let's say it went down to like 9.5, maybe even down to 9.0, then I would do it again. Very bullish on Flare. But Ben's asking what happens at 3%. So basically, here's the thing. It's not like a game of football where you get the football into the end zone and you score. It's more like, imagine there's like a camel, and every time this thing goes up, you're adding straws. What straw breaks the camel's back, I don't know. All I can say is that every time this goes up, we're closer and closer to the reverse carry trade. And once it unwinds, it's basically going to be game over for the U.S. stock market. Let me try to explain this. I get better explaining it every time I do. So there's not enough yen globally to actually pay back all of these bank loans that people have gone to the Bank of Japan to get. So I came up with this morning at the gym. Let me know if you guys think this analogy works, because I want to make this as simple for the layman as possible. Let's say you had a bag of M&Ms that you poured on the table, and the Japanese yen is a blue M&M. And the whole world is going to the Bank of Japan. They're getting loans, and the Bank of Japan has given people blue M&Ms. They're taking their blue M&Ms and they're trading them for yellows or greens or browns or reds. And then one day the Bank of Japan says, we need our blue M&Ms back. Well, nobody has the blue M&Ms. They're gone. And if that wasn't bad enough, with there being inflation in Japan, not only do you owe those blue M&Ms back, you now owe an interest on it as well. So you not only owe them your original blue M&Ms, which is already a problem because they turned it into other things. Now you owe more on top of what you originally pulled out. So as this goes on and gets higher and higher, I can guarantee you guys the treasury departments of all the major Fortune 500 companies that have loans out from the Bank of Japan are looking at this, and they're probably crapping their pants thinking, we better start paying back our bonds, or we better start paying back our BOJ loans before this thing gets any crazier. Because not only is this growing, it's actually accelerating. So, tighten this up to 5 days here. Or actually, let's go to 6 months. Yeah, 6-month chart. It was growing right here, but it's undeniably growing faster here in the last 3 months than it was in the past 6 months. So what I'm saying here is it's possible, if they don't reverse the carry trade this year, we could end the year at anywhere between 4, 5, maybe even 6% interest or yield, yield on the government bond, which is going to affect the overall interest rate of the yen. It's gonna get real spicy, and so if you're one of these companies that has to pay back the blue M&M, like I was saying a second ago, if you don't have the capital to do that, if Japan accepts XRP, then you're going to have all these global companies clamoring to buy XRP to get this thing traded back. And that is how the domino theory and the reverse carry trade unwinds. Because if you've got trillions of dollars that need to get paid back to Japan, and there's only a few billion XRP tokens, you can kind of see, I mean, unlike all the other YouTubers, I'm not trying to say what the final target's going to be, but if you've only got 2 billion or 3 billion available tokens and you need $1 trillion, you know, that's like a 300x right there. Not saying XRP is going to go to $600. I'm just saying that the idea is there, right? So whatever that factor ends up being, it's going to have to multiply the current available supply by whatever dollar amount is needed to satisfy these Bank of Japan's repayments. So that's what I'm really trying to track. And there's a chart I want to show. I should have had it open prior to starting this, but I want to show you guys the overall inflation rate. I think this is the one. So this is pretty telling, you guys. The inflation rate in Japan has, if you can see my screen, the mouse indicator, let me drag this thing down a little bit more. You know, since 1986, that's a good, man, that's 40 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. You see my mouse, the inflation rate of Japan, it stays very low, right? Like even on its worst years, it's only at like 2 or 3%. But in general, I'm just mousing over and we can see that the inflation rate in Japan has been pretty much zero for the past 40 years. Well, let's zoom all the way to 2023, where we are now officially, like, look at this, you guys. 4.3 in December of 2022. It's just going to get more and more out of control. Inflation in Japan, it's a ticking time bomb. There's only so much longer that this can last before something has to happen. And I do think that it's going to, I think it's going to have some disastrous effects on the US stock market. Any company right now, like you think about Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, if they have to pay back an XRP, that means they're going to have to do some liquidations. And there's more to it than just that. A lot of Japanese investors hold US stocks. So it might not even necessarily be Amazon themselves that has to liquidate, but let's say that you're a Japanese brokerage and you're holding Amazon and now you've got to start paying back your own Bank of Japan loans. These Japanese brokerages might say, all right, liquidate some Amazon, convert it to XRP, and let's pay this loan off. So it's more than just like the companies themselves that are going to have to do this. And I think that, you know, when this thing happens, and I'm very confident at this point that it will happen, it's going to look pretty rough for a lot of those, especially tech companies like Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. But it's going to be rough for banks too. So like JP10Y, Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, I think they're all going to have some pretty big problems coming their way when this thing really starts to kick off. So, you know, we're watching this every day on the channel. 2.35 is pretty insane. I was not expecting it to happen this fast. And so I'm just thinking, like, what's it going to look like next week or even 2 weeks from now? Maybe we finish out the month at 2.5, which is where I was thinking that the reverse carry trade could realistically get executed at that time. And I was talking with one of you guys last night on the phone about this. The Bank of Japan is at Davos right now. Hold on, I'm about to sneeze. Once you make an announcement that you're going to sneeze, that's how you don't sneeze. Just in case you guys ever have a sneezing problem, just make sure to announce it and it won't happen. If the Bank of Japan's at Davos, is there a chance that they're using the Davos Summit to announce this reverse carry trade? We know that Brad Garlinghouse is there right now. Something to think about. There could be a thread to pull there, which means if this thing does move, it could happen in the next week or two. I've been really predicting that late January to early February was when I thought a lot of this would kick off. It looks closer to happening now than ever before. I see some movement in the chat. I want to catch up with everyone before we keep moving. So Baller is talking about Flare. Just bought it at slightly over a penny. If it goes big, I'm still okay. Yeah, for me, the 0.99 thing is just a vanity thing. I mean, it doesn't actually make a difference, but I think it'd be fun to say, oh, I got Flare back when it was under a penny. It's a vanity thing, nothing more than that. I'm so bullish on Flare, I can't say it enough. Tommy is saying Japan's already using XRP for their various carry trade. Is that true? I haven't really seen anything that could corroborate that, but if you've got a source that this thing's already happening, I'd love to see it. By the way, we've got 46 of you in here, only 26 likes. Could you guys help me at least get that up to 30? If so, I could greatly appreciate that. Ben saying, what about 5%? I think it's been so long, I kind of forgot what that one was about. Tommy says, are you related to Hugo? I'm not. We spell our last names differently, so no relation to Hugo Fillion. However, I've never encountered another Fillion in the wild, so wouldn't that be something if sometime down the line I actually get to sit down with Hugo? Wouldn't that be cool? And be like, oh, hey, another Fillion. So I think that would be awesome. Cross that bridge if it ever happens. Connie says, bring on the Japanese carry trade. Want to be a millionaire this year. Right there with you. If this thing happens, I think the term millionaire won't exactly describe it the right way. Of course, it depends on how much everyone here is holding. But I know that some of us... been stacking our bags for quite a while now. Ben says, I would like financial freedom. 100% agree. I've said it on the channel a couple of times, but there seems to be some sort of almost like a cultural sickness in the world where the middle class is disappearing before our very eyes, and even as it is, the middle class lifestyle leaves a lot to be desired. So that would be like 90% of the world, even in the Western world, is basically just getting by to get by. And we're looking at an opportunity right now, at least as individuals, we very realistically could escape that. And I think that we're all very blessed to be here. At some point or another, somebody told you about XRP, and that's how you got into it. And it can be very hard to convince your friends or your family or really anybody in your life, hey, there's this thing, it's going to change the world. Most people don't want to hear it. For whatever reason, those of us here, myself included, you guys included, we're listening and we're paying attention. And I don't think that we can take that for granted. Connie says, first profit taking price for XRP is $10. I could talk about that for a bit because I do think I've got some expertise on this. If you are going to take profits, which I think, there's reasonable cases to do so, only take the profit that you're actually going to allocate. So I wouldn't say, like, for example, let's just say that you had 10,000 XRP and it goes to $10. I think that would be, what, 100,000? Would be $100,000. I wouldn't suggest someone pulls out 10 grand just to say that they locked in 10 grand in profits. I'd say have a plan for that money. So if you're putting a down payment on a house or a condo, maybe you want to pay off your student loans. There could be use cases for that. I would say just make sure that if you do take profits, that money is going towards something that has a purpose and not just a long trip to Miami, or I'd say hold off on any luxury items. No jewelry, no watches. 100K won't get you a sports car anyways. if you do want a Lamborghini, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You shouldn't buy a Lambo until you have a net worth of at least 3 million liquid capital. So that means that your house is not included in that figure. You want to have, maybe it's 3 million stocks, 3 million crypto, 3 million mix of both. Then I would say, okay, if you're going to buy a sports car like a Lambo or a Ferrari, I can say, you can take the hit, go for it. Buying a Lambo or leasing a Lambo when you're still like freshly into the millions is a very good way to squander this amazing thing that you've discovered and become poor again. So, and that goes for other luxury items too. In general, if you're going to buy something that has no actual value beyond vanity and having some fun, make sure that you can pay whatever that thing is off in cash without needing to finance it or anything like that. There's still some value to financing it, by the way. If you can get a good rate. Now I'll break this down really fast because actually this is a good topic. Let's say you wanted to buy a Lambo, right? Let's just say it was $300,000 and you were able to broker a loan to finance it at like a 5% or 6% APY. You could, in theory, take $300,000, put it into its own cold wallet, or you could, if you really wanted to, you could put it into an S&P 500 tracker. That would also be a somewhat decent way to do it. And you make your payments on the vehicle from that invested $300,000, and it doesn't even need to break even. As long as that portfolio, whatever it ends up being, you could even do treasury bills. You could do a T-bill ladder if you really wanted to. The interest you get from whatever your investment is could help cover the payment of the vehicle, so that by the time you get to the end of the loan, you still have, and depending on what you invested in, you might still have that $300,000, and your Lamborghini would be free over the course of your 5 to 6 year loan. And so even though you had the cash to buy it, you operate that money in a smarter way so that you don't actually just throw $300,000 cash at a Lambo. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Definitely something that I think about. If I'm going to, not saying I'm going to buy a Lambo, but if I do decide to start buying some luxury items, my strategy will be to make sure I have the cash up front, and then allocate that cash to a very specific account that is only for paying off the principal of that loan, and then invest that into something a little bit more stable. Maybe even that's a use case for buying some Bitcoin, just something that isn't going to be too volatile. Oddly enough, the Bitcoin is becoming the most stable coin, no pun intended, which is quite a far cry from what it originally was, being the most volatile thing that ever exists. Let me just catch up because I know the chat has moved a bit. Ben says, I think I'm just going to hold as long as I can. Definitely the smart move. Institutions will probably have a price, make hops from 10, 20, 50 to shake out some retail. You know what? If you watched yesterday's video, that's kind of what my my staircase model represents. So if we do follow, and by the way, my handwriting's very sloppy, I get it. That chart wasn't meant to be an actual match the line up with the thing I drew. I do think that we could see XRP go to like $10, fall back down around 5 or 6, then jump up probably $20, $30, fall down to 15 to 20 before going to 50 or 60. Do you guys see the pattern? If it continues following the trend that it has, this, by the way, is not the domino theory. This is just, if the dominoes don't fall, this is just the trajectory it'll go. It'll go up probably between 3 and 500% before having a 50% slide, you still get to keep about a 2x, and it would follow that pattern for indefinitely, I guess. And that's how you can still end up with $100 XRP by around 2030. Again, I think it could happen a lot faster if the reverse carry trade unwinds. I mean, you guys, we could be looking at $100 XRP within a month or two. But this has to happen, right? Like, it's not just magically going to go to 100. CS Gaiman says, will the Bank of Japan just hold the XRP after they receive it? I don't think so. What I also covered on yesterday's video is that once the reverse carry trade happens, then XRP will officially have enough capital inflows to start handling some of the bigger ticket items, right? So we have all these pre-funded cash accounts and vaults all over the world for international trade, right? So if I want to, but if I'm the US government and I want to do business in Mexico, or if I want to do business in Canada or the United Kingdom or Saudi Arabia, I have to have a pre-funded account that's literally just cash of their own currency. So I'd have to have the peso, I'd have to have the pound, I'd have to have the riel, I'd have to have the yen. And those don't go to work, they don't do anything, they just literally sit there. And I don't know if we really know how much in total value is across the world, but I've seen figures that say there's something between like 20 to 30 trillion dollars cash globally, not just the United States, but globally, just sitting in these accounts. And XRP would remove the requirement to have those pre-funded accounts. So if you just think about converting that over, you could be seeing 20 to 30 trillion jumped into XRP. But I don't think that happens without, it's not going to happen all in one day, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so to get a small adoption of that, maybe you get 10% of that, you'd want the XRP token to already be around $50 to $100 just to be able to handle that entry level volume. And then people that have said, XRP goes to $10,000, that's when all of this is at full maturity. Like when you officially move the entire global economy on chain, that's when XRP starts hitting those 5 figures. But I don't think that happens. I think there's no chance that happens by 2030. I'd love to be wrong. I just don't think that it just doesn't necessarily add up to me. I don't think the markets move that fast. Governments move slow. Everything, I mean, just look at the Clarity Act. Look how slow that's moving. Could it be 10,000 by 2040? Absolutely. Absolutely it could. But I know a lot of people don't want to wait 15 years, but I'll be here. I know some of you guys are talking about holding XRP for life, and so you hold on to XRP for life, and does it really matter? I mean, once this thing crosses $100, it's kind of like if your goal is to get wet, whether you jump in a swimming pool or the ocean, you're gonna get wet, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Mason says, why XRP? Why will they choose XRP? Good point. Good question. So it looks like Tommy beat me to it, but XRP's already been tested. We already know that it works. It's been through all of the legal, it's been through the legal jungle. They got sued by the SEC for 5 straight years. It took 5 years to get through that SEC lawsuit. So XRP is first in line for clarity. It's the only token right now that has digital clarity besides Bitcoin. But Bitcoin moves too slow. You can't really use Bitcoin on an international level transacting on the daily when, the gas fees on a one Bitcoin transaction alone could be anywhere between $2 and $5 depending on how busy the network is. Well, in some cases, the Bitcoin gas fees are worse than credit card fees. So that's going to be out the window. XRP has the world's smallest transaction fee. I think it's like 1 or 2 drops. Which if you don't know what a drop is, I don't want to get this wrong. I'm pretty sure a drop in Ripple's case is 1/100th of an XRP token, or 1/100,000th of an XRP token. But let's just pull out the true one, just so we're not. I think it's no, it's not. How many drops in one XRP? I think it's 100,000. Okay, there's 1 million. Okay, well, good thing we double checked on that. So there's 1 million drops in XRP. I think a transaction fee is, it's not one drop, but it's definitely small. You could, whoa, the dog just started barking. Oh, you startled me, buddy. One XRP could be transacted like hundreds, thousands of times before it ever equaled one token. I guess is probably even more than that. Probably like in the hundreds of thousands of times you can move an XRP token without it burning up. Anyways, hopefully that wasn't too long-winded of an answer there. My dog is barking right now. Maybe there's a mailman at the door. Oh, maybe the mailman has my iPad pencil. Now, wouldn't that be something? Tommy says it'll go to 10,000 overnight and you won't be able to buy or sell in exchanges. I do think that it will go off the exchanges. I don't know that it's going to do that overnight though. I think it'll follow what I was calling that staircase model, where it's gonna come in waves. So when it does move, it's gonna move vertically. You know, maybe it goes to 100 on the first wave and then just shoots up to like 500 on the second wave and then 1,000 on the next wave, so forth. But I think there'll be a period of stability in between giant price hikes. You guys want to see my dog real quick? Hey, buddy, come here. Come here, buddy. Okay, he doesn't want to hop up. It's just a mailman, buddy. Don't worry. Let's catch up on the chats. And then, did XRP have an airdrop? Be careful, you guys. If you see anyone talking about XRP airdrops on social media, those are scammers. There's no XRP airdrops. It's not. It doesn't do that. Anyone saying to claim your airdrop, your XRP airdrop, is a scammer. You'll see it all the time on socials. So really keep an eye on that. By the way, this thing literally just moved. Literally just moved up as I'm holding this screen open. Need XRP to go up so I can get out of this basement. I hear you, man. Oh, okay. If XRP gave an airdrop back in 2012, that's one thing, but they're not doing that in 2026. I expect, actually, I wonder, I'm gonna just go to YouTube really fast. I wonder if there's scams out right now. I'm gonna type in XRP Davos and see if there's any scammer videos. Because I know that there's been a lot of, what they do is they'll have like an AI Brad Garlinghouse. It doesn't look like there's any in here right now. Keep an eye out, you guys. Oh, this could be interesting. Maybe we jump into this for a minute. Okay, I want to wrap up this thought because it's really important. Maybe it's not happening right now, but at some point in the future, you guys are probably going to see during a major press event for any of these tokens, HBAR, XRP, Bitcoin with Michael Saylor, there'll be an AI video, like there might be an AI video of Brad Garlinghouse saying that they're giving out free XRP as some sort of like a sale or a event or whatever. Stay as far away from those as possible. They're AI generated videos. I feel like most of you guys probably would know that, but there's new people in this space every day. And so unfortunately, I do think some of them are going to get get caught up in it. This headline right here kind of covers what I was saying at the beginning of the stream. I'm not really happy about XRP being at Davos, but I understand that, can understand why they are. I'm just hoping that Ripple doesn't let us down and ends up being the very thing that we've all been fighting against. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to click into this. We don't have to watch it for long, but I do want to see if there's anything that we can get out of this right now as it is happening live.
So what you're saying is you want private enterprise to lead the day, but when it comes to national security, the government will be a shareholder.
And again, a lot of this isn't private. You know, we have seen what happens when the free markets get kind of perverted, because what happens with critical minerals, that several companies have tried to stand up critical minerals facilities in the U.S., and the Chinese come, lower price, undercut them, and then they're bankrupt. So we are going to put in a system, price floor, price ceilings, and when you talk about multilateralism and the U.S. leading, I just hosted at Treasury last Monday the G7++, so G7 plus Australia, plus India, plus Mexico, plus South Korea, and we are working at warp speed to create a critical minerals block where we can mine, process, and refine critical minerals, and China won't have this sword over our heads.
So how long do you think it...
Let me know, do you guys want me to watch this? It's totally up to you guys. We can watch more if you're interested. I don't know if this Davos Summit right now is specifically going to be talking about crypto. But this is something I'll probably listen to later on tonight, one way or another, to see if there's anything I can get out of this as news. You guys let me know. We can move on to other things, or we can watch this for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to catch up on chats while I wait for you guys. Maybe I'll even just throw out a poll. That way, do you want me to cover Davos? Oh, yes. Sorry. Here we go. So I'll leave this poll open for maybe about a minute, and whether we get yeses or we get nos, I'll base my decision off that. And in the meantime, I'm just going to catch up with the chat so that you guys have time to vote. Tommy says, we're all marching into the 2 with arms open. That's crypto. Let's be real. I don't know what that means, marching into the 2. Ben says, region. Does that mean you're not able to see it? And then Fate saying, I try to keep the cryptos off exchanges. I agree. It's good to have your own cold wallet. And then Silas is saying, isn't the Canton token fairly new? It has no history to prove itself. Yeah, it's new, and I'll be honest, I don't really trust it. I know that people are telling me to look more into it, but I don't like... I guess I'll say it again. I said it earlier. I would rather Wall Street have to plug their nose and use XRP than to come up with their own solution. And that's kind of what I'm getting out of this from Canton. It looks like the vote is in. It's pretty evenly split. We'll just watch this for a few minutes. If it doesn't seem crypto related, then we'll come back to the crypto topic. But I do think there could be something here. So let's just give it 2 or 3 minutes and see what happens.
It will be until the United States is, in fact, independent in terms of the refinement of these minerals, independent in terms of oil, etc. I mean, I know that the U.S. is the largest producer anyway, but do you expect this year, next year, what's your timetable in terms of the U.S. not relying on China for these things?
Well, obviously for energy, we are independent. an energy superpower. And I would say 18 to 24 months. I went down about 2 months ago to my home state of South Carolina. And in South Carolina, for the first time in 25 years, there's a producer there who made rare earth magnets. So they are starting to come off the supply chain. They believe that within 2 years, they can fulfill most of the rare earth magnet needs for the U.S. And then we also want to help our allies because the supply chain is important.
Mm-hmm. What do you want to say about sanctions, something else you've been working on, of course? What are you planning there in terms of Iran and the impact there? Do sanctions actually work? And the same question with regard to 500% secondary sanctions or tariffs on countries who purchase energy products from Russia.
Okay, so two things there. There are Treasury sanctions. And if you look at a speech that I gave at the Economic Club of New York last March, I said that I believe the Iranian currency was on the verge of collapse, that if I were an Iranian citizen, I would take my money out. President Trump ordered Treasury and our OFAC division, Office of Foreign Asset Control, to put maximum pressure on Iran, and it's worked. Because in December, their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There is a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports, and this is why the people took to the street. So this is economic.
Do you guys think that this could lead to Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz? That is a bingo slot on the reverse carry trade domino theory. Interesting thing that he just said there.
Economic statecraft, no shots fired, and things are moving in a very positive way here. On the 500% tariffs on the buyers of Russian oil, that is a proposal that Senator Graham has in front of the Senate, and we will see whether that passes. We don't believe that President Trump needs that authority, that he can do it under IEEPA, but that the Senate wants to give him that authority. And just to be clear, that we have Europe buying Russian oil still 4 years later. They are financing the war against themselves. India started buying Russian oil after the conflict began, but President Trump put a 25% tariff on them, and India has geared down and has stopped buying Russian oil. And then 3, China is a very large buyer of Russian oil, as they are of Iranian oil, as they were of Venezuelan oil. But guess what, Maria? No more Venezuelan oil for them.
By the way, sorry to cut this guy off. I'm looking in real time. The markets, as I live and breathe, are sliding pretty hard right now. Even since we started this stream, I don't know if I can narrow this any more than it already is, but not looking too good. We started at 11. Bitcoin cracked into the 89s there not too long ago, had a tiny rebound. This could end up being a pretty red day across the board. I also saw that Flare, cracked. Oh, I guess it's having a tiny recovery, but just a minute ago, Flare was down to 995. So could be a red day. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. How are you guys liking this? You want me to keep going with the? You want me to keep going with this Davos Summit, or move on to something else? What do you guys think?
So would you treat China the same as the others in terms of buying Russian oil with regard to tariffs and sanctions?
Well, we'll see what happens with this Senate bill and with the Iranian oil. That'll be up to President Trump.
Secretary, what do you want to say about artificial intelligence and the idea that AI efficiencies will likely kill jobs? A lot of people are worried about jobs. Do we have a plan in the U.S. government right now in terms of job creation in the face of AI efficiency killing jobs?
Well, Maria, we are seeing the record factory groundbreakings. That's why President Trump wants to bring back these precision jobs to the U.S. And historically, every productivity boom has led to job growth. Now, can there be some toing and froing in terms of people changing professions? I can't remember what the number is. Maybe you know it. 50, 60% of the professions today didn't exist 30 years ago.
Well, it's a big number. With technology.
It's a big number, but it's something we're very cognizant of. We haven't seen it in the numbers yet.
I feel like they're talking about good stuff, but maybe not exactly crypto related at the moment. If they are talking about AI, I think that, you know, this is something that maybe we should all be kind of thinking about is, hold on, let me adjust my screen so I make sure that, there we go. AI might be coming for all of our jobs. So, you know, if they're replacing, hold on, this is distracting me, so I'm gonna move it off screen here. We'll go back to CoinMarketCap. If AI is going to be replacing jobs, that's going to be bad news for a lot of us, especially those that work in the tech field, anything creative like making art and music, working in the financial systems as well. I think the best thing that we can do is try to be forward thinking. How do we position ourselves in an AI world to either stay employed or, I mean, maybe you don't need to have a job at all and you can live off of crypto. But if you're not ready for that, if you haven't stacked up enough, I think AI could be a serious market for people to pivot into. I was coming from the financial IT space myself, and something a lot of people in the office were worried about was that, you know, by 2030, some of the technical things that we were doing could quite literally be automated by AI. And so we were always saying, you know, in the break room, like, how do we get into AI ourselves? Positioning yourself like that, I think, is a good way to preserve yourself, you know, going into this new generation. And then, of course, here I am on YouTube. That's kind of my thing, right? Like, there's so many fake AI videos that just being an authentic person, I think right now is actually kind of a leg up, you know. I'm not going to air my brother out. I guess I will a little bit. He loves AI videos for some reason. I'm always telling him, like, no, I don't think anyone really likes these. Maybe they get views, but I mean, if you want to really get into this game, you gotta have a personality. There's gotta be a real person in front of the camera with real ideas. I mean, even on the Twitter space alone, like, you can easily tell when someone's using ChatGPT to write their posts, and I don't like it, to be honest with you guys. A dead giveaway for AI is when they say something like, "It's not this, it's that." You can see those all over the place on Twitter, and that's kind of how I feel about that. ABK says, "Hey Andrew, would you kindly explain what does reverse carry trade mean and what does it have to do with XRP?" Shout out from KSA, of course. So let me try to hit this at a high level. By the way, I think when the stream's done, I'm going to make a reverse carry trade specific video. So I might start wrapping this stream early so that I can get cracking on that and have it out by the end of this afternoon. And I'll just post it when it's ready as opposed to waiting for tomorrow. Anyways, reverse carry trade, most simple. I'm going to give you a 3-minute overview. So the Bank of Japan historically has had an interest-free currency in the Japanese yen. So there's like a 2-point system. The Japanese government has these 10-year bonds which contain the yen, and then the Bank of Japan buys the bond from Japanese government, so Japan's its primary buyer, and then the Bank of Japan goes and loans out money to all the global entities of the world, your international banks, your Fortune 500 companies, anybody who needs a big, giant, cheap loan goes to the Bank of Japan to get one. So that would be a carry trade because the yen has historically had either zero or very low interest rate. So a carry trade is when you go from a low interest rate asset to a high interest rate asset. Easy example, the yen to the US dollar. So if I get a loan from the Bank of Japan, it's a 10-year loan, I got 10 years to pay it back. Let's say I loaned out, and by the way, the exchange rates are wonky. Let's just say I borrowed 1 trillion yen, just to keep the numbers simple. I borrow 1 trillion yen, 10 years later, all I have to do is pay the Bank of Japan back my bad, I screwed that up already. You get a loan of 1 trillion yen from the bank, 10 years later, you just have to pay back 1 trillion yen. Well, because the US dollar, or really any other currency, by the way, has built-in inflation, the odds of you defaulting on that loan are basically zero. Even just holding the US dollar would cover the spread on that loan. So what all these entities are doing is they buy the yen, then they convert it into other things, and so they no longer have the yen, but they've got the loan, but not the yen, right? And because the payment is so delayed, they don't really have to worry about it. In some cases, they just kick the can down the road. And you can even do a loan ladder where you get a loan to pay off the other loan, which totally different topic. But the reverse carry trade is when you go from a high interest rate asset down to a low interest rate asset. So if you see the yen currently is rapidly inflating before our very eyes, this is a currency that never inflated. Now it's inflating. And it's not just inflating a little bit, it's inflating a lot. So the very currency that used to be used for the carry trade can no longer be used for the carry trade because it's got an interest rate. If they convert the yen to XRP, that would be the reverse carry trade, and that is what all of us here on this channel are banking on happening, because if you can't pay Japan back in yen because you no longer have the yen, if they accept XRP, everybody on earth can, well, not everybody, these entities, these institutions, the Fortune 500s, the banks, they can buy XRP and use that to fulfill their Bank of Japan loan. So that's how the reverse carry trade could unwind. Most of the U.S. stock market, no, let me not use that word. The highest holder of the U.S. stock market from international holders is Japan. So Japanese investors have quite a substantial amount of money in our own market. If they themselves have to pay back their own bank loans, which they themselves are also customers of the Bank of Japan, you can expect to see your Apple, your Nvidia, your Amazon, Microsoft, your Palantir. You can expect to see those get liquidated pretty hard, and that money will go into XRP. And so that is how you would end up with, I don't even want to say the number because it just gets people all antsy, but whatever XRP would land at, it would certainly be higher than $1.90. And I think that the first leg of the reverse carry trade, I don't think it happens all in one day, but I think it happens in installments. I think it could go to $20 overnight. That's my personal opinion. I reserve the right to be wrong about that. If it's not $20, it's going to be something. Don't know what it'll be, but it certainly will not be $1.91. And that's kind of the. I think I said I was going to do it in layman's terms, and I maybe kind of ran that one off a little bit, but that's kind of the idea there. I do think I'm going to wrap this in 5 minutes just because I do want to get cracking on that video. So I'm going to catch up with the questions that we've already got in the chat, and then I think we're going to start wrapping this stream up. So I just answered ABK's. Let's see if we got any other actual questions. Okay, here we got Ben. Random thought, but does investing in McDonald's mean you're investing in a company that invests in real estate? I guess so. I guess kind of like a shower thought, I guess. I do think that AI will probably reduce how many employees McDonald's has. I mean, imagine that the only job that you need at McDonald's is the actual fry cook. You might get to a point where you quite literally don't even have a cashier. You might just have a store manager and a fry cook, and that might be the two jobs that McDonald's has. And if it's not McDonald's, it'll probably be something else. You might even see a fast food chain that doesn't even exist yet. Kind of like the Aldi of fast food. Just pops up out of nowhere. And their whole entire shtick is that it's just a manager and a fry cook. And then you use an AI kiosk or, all of these automated machines to get your burger or your taco or whatever it is that they end up being. Bad news for high schoolers. I'm glad that I think most of us here on this channel are adults. So, I'm 33. I think most of you guys watching are actually older than me, probably 40s, 50s, just based on my analytics page. I'm glad that we're alive now and didn't get born earlier, because it's gonna be rough for them high school age kids. I don't know exactly what they're gonna do. It's not a good situation for them. I'm gonna wrap up these comments, and then I think I'm gonna close the stream so I can get cracking on that bond video, because I think that's gonna be a big one. There's a famous franchise owner that stated McDonald's is not a hamburger company but a real estate company. Oh, that's interesting. We probably need to send someone back in time to stop crucial steps before AI becomes self-aware and takes over. I think there's this guy we could probably send. His name is John Connor. I think we send a guy named John Connor back, and I think that he might be able to help with that. Sorry if that was a little corny, you guys. I am going to start wrapping this thing up, because I do want to get cracking on that video. A lot of exciting stuff moving in the market. I'll probably simultaneously tonight watch some more Davos stuff. We only get conferences like this once a year, so I'll see what I can unpack from that. Maybe it's a nothing burger. Maybe there's some stuff there. And either way, I'll report it back to you guys. It does seem like some of you do enjoy the, covering of the actual news. It didn't seem like that particular conference was crypto related. That's why I paused it. But if I do see some crypto related press conferences, maybe I'll start sliding those into these live streams. But with that, you guys, this is my last call out. If you haven't liked the stream yet, do me a solid and like the stream. And then if any of you guys found this from the YouTube feed and you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe. You'll be able to find a lot more of our videos here. I do pre-recorded sessions on top of the live stream. And then with that, I'm going to catch up this one last comment here. Thank you, Ben. I highly appreciate that. Joe says it was announced that the NYSE developing platform for 24/7 trading and tokenization. This is a great final point for the stream. If we tokenize the stock market, you'll be able to trade stocks 24/7, even Saturday night at the bar after you've had about 10 Miller Lights and a tin of Zyn. You can make the best financial decisions by trading stocks at 2 or 3 in the morning. So that definitely wasn't financial advice. And that was definitely an entertainment statement only. But yeah, everything on this channel is not financial advice, so don't do anything and then say that Andrew told you to do it. Zerp says 20K XRP could be life-changing in a few years, and I agree. I'm going to wrap this stream. It's 12:30. I hope to have my reverse carry trade video out sometime between 4 and 5 p.m. today. I think that's a good timeline for me to crack this one out. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright at 11 a.m. It's going to be even colder, at least here in Michigan. So that's January for you. With that, you guys, see you in the next one. Take care.